go. Oh, yeah. Ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Thompsin Other Disappointments. With me, your host, Thompsin, serving as your tour guide to this depressing, soul-beating, hope-soiling, optimism vacuum in which we live. And by that, of course, I mean the formerly Great Britain. Before we get started, I suppose I should talk very briefly about the gigs that I've got coming up. I've got two big, sexy shows for you guys. The upcoming one, the impending one, is Thursday the 28th of September. That's in London. That's just me. That's like a live thing of this podcast. I'm looking forward to it. It's me, Otto English, John Left of the Countryside, Ashley Hayden. It's going to be booze, stand-up. I've sort of styled it like a kind of cult sermon night. So it's going to be a bit culty, a bit funny, a bit boozy. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun, man. You can still get tickets to that if you go to the link in the description of this show. It's funk27.co.uk/shows. You can get tickets to that and also the Riot Society, which is coming up on the 10th of November. That's me, Super Tansky, Danny Price, Marina Perkis, Dane Baptiste. It's going to be fun, man. So hit that link in the description. Try and get yourself a ticket before they all sell out and you miss out like you miss out on everything. Anyway, that's enough of the promo for now. What's going on in the news, man? What's happening? What's developed? What's actually got some meat on the bones that we can talk about? What's the big story right now? Cheers, by the way. The big story right now, politically, domestically, in the UK, of course, is China. Isn't it? China is the current moral panic, as far as I can see. If you don't follow my punk politics videos on YouTube, which I've just started doing about a month ago, you won't know really that I've been looking into this and some of the stuff that I've come out with. But like a quick recap, maybe for some of you who haven't been up to speed with those videos. Basically, it's like this, guys. Okay, like we have a prime minister who's been a Conservative MP since 2015. I want to say, is that when he was elected? I think it was about then. Elected in, and he served under Theresa May and Boris Johnson, and then he went for the leadership and he became PM. We'll just completely scoot over Liz Truss. I don't think Liz Truss counts, man. All right? We've all had temp jobs that lasted longer than Liz Truss. So let's just, skip over her. So he was elected, he served under Theresa May, Boris Johnson, and then he went for the leadership and he became Prime Minister. And throughout that whole time, remember when Theresa May was leader? Do you remember that? And the whole thing with Brexit, right, was that they didn't investigate Russian interference in the referendum. Do you remember that? And it was basically because they didn't like the idea of what they might find. That was it. Like the Tory party took so much cash from Russian donors, from oligarchs, from people connected to... it's not even... We'll get onto that in a minute. But basically, neither Theresa May nor Boris Johnson seem to want to go anywhere near a thorough investigation into what role Russia played in the Brexit referendum. Neither one of them had any appetite whatsoever. And I suppose there's a few different conclusions you could draw from that, right? Like at best, like a generous interpretation might be that Brexit had been voted for. It was, at least to observers, it was the will of the people. And the Tories had made it their doctrine, basically. So the idea that it might now be coloured by malicious actors, by adversarial states. Like the integrity of that vote and of their project, of their doctrine, might be called into question if they started picking at that scab. And where would that leave them? if you actually pulled the integrity of that under the spotlight. You know, it would leave them floating aimlessly towards a second referendum, wouldn't it? So it's possible, when we're looking for conclusions as to why they wouldn't be keen to investigate interference in that referendum, no matter how rumoured it was, it's possible that the reason that they didn't investigate, that they had no appetite, was just out of political, embarrassment and self-preservation ideals. That's why they didn't want to look at it. But at worst, it is also possible that Russian influence within the Conservative Party played a role directly. Like, do you remember the wife of Putin's finance minister? Right? I think her name's Chernukin. Is it Veronica Chernukin? Something V. Chernukin. I don't know. But she's the wife or ex-wife of Putin's finance minister. Right? And she's like the biggest donor to the Tories over the last decade. Whatever. And then you've got Lebedev partying with Johnson directly after that NATO meeting, I don't know, sometimes before that party happened. Like, can you imagine? Like, he would have phoned up Boris, wouldn't he? He would have been like, Boris, my old chum, my old friend. I am having a few friends over to my mansion on the 14th. Just a few friends, from the worlds of politics, media, and prostitution, and compromise. And the 14th, you say? Oh, blast! It looks like, yeah, I'm actually at a NATO Security Council meeting that day. A NATO Security Council meeting, you say? Oh, well, I had no idea. I'm sure we can work around that. Boris or Alexander, whatever you were calling yourself this week. Well, why don't you just get your busy work out the way and then come straight to us afterwards? We will have the wine and the cheese waiting for you. Oh, lovely, Evgeny. Oh, you really are a great friend. And Lebedev's just like, yes. Like Mr. Burns, like scheming. He's like, yeah, I'll just invite the foreign secretary directly from a NATO Security Council meeting with all this paperwork. I'll have him fly straight in. Yeah. Things are going pretty well for old Evgeny Lebedev. But no, so they didn't want to look into the Russian relationship between people like Boris Johnson and Lebedev, and they didn't want to investigate the use of bots and finance and donations and all of that either. And that's just the Tories, by the way, in terms of who didn't want to take a look at this, right? That's just the Conservative Party. And maybe the Met. If some, frothing activisty type maybe got bored enough one day in between, bashing one out in pure anger over PMQs and making TikToks and all the other stuff that we activists do, right? Like, maybe if they got bored enough one day, they might have asked the Met to look at it. But, neither the Met nor the Tories, nobody looked into it from a criminal or political perspective. Nobody cared. But also, you'll be delighted to learn that on top of that, so that's criminal and political, right? You will be shocked to hear that nobody looked into it from a security services perspective either. Like, nobody cared. I think it was the head of MI6 or someone. They went to a select committee hearing or so, and they were asked if there was evidence of Russian interference in elections and referenda. And I was just blown away. The response, because the official line was basically like, no, we didn't find any, because we haven't looked into it, and also, yeah, no, not even now. I mean, no, even now, there are basically no protections in place to safeguard British democracy from that kind of attack. I was like, oh, amazing. Oh, that is incredible. Great work, guys. Like, really? Are we seriously saying the security services, the spies, the engineers, the intelligence gatherers, the analysts from MI5 right through MI6 and back, like none of them ever stood to one side and went, hang on a second. What if someone decided to upend our democracy using modern means? You know? Nobody said that. Nobody ever raised their hand and suggested that might be a possibility. And so anyway, when the Russia report finally did come out and say all of this stuff, you know, like we're asleep at the wheel. Nobody was checking what influence Russia were trying to gain. Nobody had processes in place to restrict Kremlin-connected donors. Nobody wanted to look because they were scared of what they might find. Like, still, even now, I don't think there's any real protections in place, even now in 2023. We are just as exposed, even after everything that's happened, to the same type of thing happening all over again. Like, nobody gives a flying one, do they? And yet, you know, to bring this back to the topic of today's podcast and, you know, what's in the news at the moment. If we look at the response to the China stuff, I mean, it's almost comical, isn't it? It's like parodic. Because with Russia, with Brexit, they didn't want to look into it. With China, with getting, you know, the Prime Minister's car bugged, with spies getting arrested in Parliament now, and now suddenly the Tories are like, what was the quote the other day I saw? It was a Express headline, if that gives you a little inkling of the credibility I'm about to come out with. It was like, it said, Sunak will not accept interference in UK democracy. Like, do these people have any self-awareness at all? Like, none, really. Like, first up, Rishi will not accept interference in UK democracy. Is like, when are you talking about here, guys? When are you... Rishi will not accept interference in UK democracy. Because I thought you guys are fine with it. If not fine, I thought you didn't want to know. In fact, how do you even know or suspect who is or isn't interfering with UK democracy? You're too scared to go looking, remember? You're too worried what you might find. And secondly, Rishi will not accept interference in UK democracy. Like, even if we assume that you do have the cojones to take on China, I will not accept interference. Wait, you know, come on, man. Live in reality for just a moment. Just a 4-day weekend. I'm begging you to live in reality. Even if you were serious about warning China that you will not accept interference. Like, what exactly do you expect President Xi Jinping to do in response to this warning, really? Like, what are we expecting is the outcome of this warning? I will not accept interference in UK democracy. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, really? You will not accept... Well, I will not accept Kwasi Kwarteng turning my mortgage into my new rebranded trust fund. But I'm not really in a bargaining position here, am I, Rish? I'm not coming from a position of strength to not accept what is probably going to keep on happening to me anyway, regardless of such non-acceptance. Do you know what I mean? I'm not in a position of strength with that. It's ridiculous. Like, I will not accept interference in UK... Like, does he seriously think China are going to be like, launch the spy balloons. Okay, yeah, no, that's done, President Xi. And you've put the bugs in this car? Yep, yeah, they're all installed. We've been listening for months. Okay, and you've got 2 parliamentary researchers with full access to the house? Yeah, we got them locked down. They're on the payroll. They're providing intelligence back to us. Okay, and we're gleaning billions of data like off their population via, nefarious engineers behind the cuddly front of TikTok, are we? Yeah. No, we've been doing that for years now. Wait. I'm sorry, President Xi Jinping. I'm really sorry. This has just come in. It says here, their prime minister has warned you he won't accept democratic interference. Oh, drat. Oh, well, do you know what? That was fun while it lasted. Wind it up, lads. Game over. No! They're just going to crack on. Okay. I will not accept... Yeah, okay, all right. It's fine. Just sit down. Sit down, Rish. I mean, the whole thing makes little sense to me anyway, as I've said in the punk politics stuff. Like when the spy balloon stuff was happening, I was like, why would they fly spy balloons over American cities like that? Like giant floating billboards for espionage. Like it feels so old world and so obvious. Like, wouldn't it be easier to just hack people's phones, their emails, get their personal data? Or like, actually, do you know what? If we're going to live in the real world, wouldn't it just be easier for them to buy people's personal data, right? But then, anyway, like that was, the spy balloons in America. But like, let's bring it closer back to home again. Like, it's possible they've compromised a couple of parliamentary researchers. It's possible they've bugged Rishi Sunak's car. These things are possible. But it just seems like a lot of trouble to me, and with a high risk of getting found out, and having that geopolitical embarrassment. Wouldn't it just be easier for them to join Rishi Sunak's Breakfast Club? Like, I don't know how many of you remember this, because Lord knows the news cycle moves quicker all the time. I know that. But do you remember? Try and take your memory back 2 or 3 years. It's when Johnson was still in. And it was revealed that there was a secret, quote unquote, advisory board. That's what they called it. And this advisory board had secret meetings with no minutes taken, with exclusive access to the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Prime Minister. And all you had to do to get a seat at the table was donate £250,000 to CCHQ. Do you remember that? Like that in itself should be a national scandal. Like, just absorb it. Just take it in for a moment. Business leaders, billionaires, people who objectively, inarguably, would want to buy policy, to lose red tape, to make their staff work longer hours, for shorter holidays, for less money, not have to pay into their pensions. They'd love to sack off human rights, to gain access to government contracts without a bidding process. Those guys, right? They pay 250 grand each to CCHQ, not to the government, not to the public money coffers, so it could be used on things that you and I might benefit from, but to the Conservative Party, who can then spend it on campaigning and putting out fake newspapers in Surrey. They paid 250 grand each to gain access to the PM and Chancellor in secret meetings where nothing is recorded or published for transparency. Like, how does that not stink to high heaven? Anyway, back to my point. If indeed I had a point. Yes, I remember. So it feels to me like if China wanted to gain influence, to gain intel from the establishment, to push our politics in a certain direction. Like, why wouldn't they just do what everyone else does and toss a check to CCHQ? Like, it would be so much cheaper, apart from anything else. And it would save you the embarrassment, but mostly it would be so much cheaper. Like, do you have any idea how much money it must have cost China to find UK-based espionage professionals willing to betray their own country, and install listening devices on a prime minister's car? Like, how much that whole operation must have set them back? Because I don't either. I don't know how much that would have cost. But I can guarantee you it would be significantly more expensive than the tens of thousands of pounds it costs to get the ear of a cabinet conservative. Like, they are so cheap. You're talking about a tens of millions of pounds espionage operation there. Or you can donate £20,000 to CCHQ and gain influence. You'd think it'd be $1 million or something, wouldn't you? Or at least 600 or 700 grand. But no, you too can actually get some political representation. You will no longer be voiceless and politically homeless, dear listeners, if you can just cough up a measly 50 or 60 grand to give to Conservative Party campaigning headquarters. I mean, don't get it twisted, by the way. Like, they will not accept the salary that you pay to them as their MP salary. They won't accept that as a donation. or any kind of call on them to represent you. You can curl up and die with that fanciful fantasy you've developed for yourself there. That is not applicable. They don't accept that. It's like Amex in some restaurants. They're like, nah, this is not good here. I'm sorry. Incidentally, like, I would love to prank call CCHQ one time, and try to, present their minister's salary to them, to CCHQ, as though, that's my donation. I'd love to do that. Just to remind them of what the general public expect in return for us paying their bills. I'd love to call them up and just pretend I'm a bigwig somewhere, like I'm a billionaire businessman on the cusp of making a donation. I'll pick up the phone. I'll be like, "Yeah, hi, I made Thompsin from Pyramid Capital." Pyramid Capital. I'm not familiar. What do you do? Well, we're a glorified pyramid scheme, which sounds bad, I know, but we use very glossy marketing to cover up our disgusting corruption. So it is right up your street. Oh, right. Okay. Very much so. Yeah. And we only take money from the working and middle classes. So again, you and I, natural bedfellows. I thought maybe we should talk. Right. You are. Yeah. What would you like to discuss specifically? Well, as I understand it, if I make a donation to the Conservative Party, I can expect to gain access to cabinet ministers, and in time, I can acquire some sort of, representation at the political level for my business interests and my concern. Right. Sorry, lots of words there. What is it that you actually want from us? I want to buy policy. Oh, right. Oh, absolutely. Yep. That's what we're here for. Great. Yes, I've heard. Terrible things. Now, here's what I would like to achieve. I would like the Minister for Housing to announce a wartime effort of house building, like loads of de-scoped greenbelt, brownfield sites, compulsory purchase orders, international building companies brought in to bolster the effort to fix the housing crisis once and for all. And I want it announced this year. Oh, goodness. Oh, well, that is a biggie. And right, so here's where I would get cheeky. Right, I'd be like, right, well, I mean, I'd be happy to make a donation. Oh, I see. Well, that does always make things a little bit easier. I mean, I suppose we could arrange a meeting for, say, 70,000. Well, why don't we make it 80? In fact, why don't we make it £86,584? That's very specific. Yeah, it is. It is. It's the minister's salary. That's what he's paid by us to represent us and work for the public good. Now, how about you lot stop flogging off policy to billionaire donors and actually try fixing the country? God. Even my made-up exchanges in my head get me angry now. Like, is that where I am psychologically these days? Like, I'm so far down the political dystopian rabbit hole, you know? Like, life and society have become so manifestly unbelievable, you know? Like, satire is dead and reality is unreal. Now, now even the insanity of my brain is sort of sufficiently real enough, like possible enough, that it too can actually get me politically enraged. Now, also, I don't know. Getting deep now. Anyway, where was I? What was I talking about? China. Russia, Sunak. And how Sunak won't accept foreign interference in UK democracy. He won't accept it. And if China aren't careful, guys, if they keep on meddling, MI6 might refuse to investigate it. While CCHQ give them tickets to play tennis with David Cameron. So yeah, just think about that, China, before you go installing bugs and flying your balloons over here. There could be serious repercussions, like nobody looking into it whatsoever. What else is going on? Domestically, we've sort of covered at the moment. Over stateside, Biden is going to be impeached by the looks of it. I don't really know what to make of that. I mean, I suppose in these days of the Trumps, of the Tories, of the corrupt, of the sometimes downright evil, you know, it's sort of easy to allow yourself to be swallowed up in a sort of good and evil story sometimes, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, if this guy over here is evil or hugely corrupt or sociopathic or whatever, then this guy over here, who's not that bad, like he's just okay, but like it's easy to think that he's good because comparatively he is, you know, right? But just because this guy's not a sociopathic narcissist who would sell America to the highest bidder, it doesn't mean he's as pure as Christ, right? Doesn't mean his sheets are totally clean. And I really think maybe that's the trap that a lot of us have fallen into with Joe Biden. Like, I mean, it's early days yet, obviously. And as far as I can tell, there's been no published proof or even really any evidence of wrongdoing. But the statement that McCarthy guy came out with earlier was pretty damning. And I sort of feel like when they come out with that stuff, they would be sued, or they would, you know, they wouldn't be allowed to say this sort of stuff out loud. Although, I don't know, you know what, like Trump and Boris Johnson used to say all manner of ridiculous stuff and nobody ever sued them for it. But anyway, the stuff that this McCarthy guy came out with earlier sounded pretty bad. There's a lot of talk of, you know, lies and bribes, testimony from people, and millions of dollars getting funneled through shell companies into the Biden's estate. Like, it doesn't sound good. I'm going to prepare you for it. Set your expectations for the purity of Joe Biden at fairly dirty, if this statement was much to go by. But here is the silver lining, dear listeners. I feel like if it does turn out that he's crooked, which, look, it's still possible that it's all hot air. Like, it's all just over-egging a thing here and hyperbole over there, and it's they know that it'll never go anywhere, but it's a way for the Republican Party to distract from Trump's, like, what is it? 90 criminal charges? Like it could be that, still. You know, as cynical as that sounds, and deluded as that sounds. But, like, it could be. It could be like, hey, guys, you say that Donnie's a bit shady. Well, look at your boy Joey. Look, he's foul. Look at him. And then, and then it turns out that there's actually nothing to it. Maybe. It's just posturing and distortion, Maybe it turns out that the funneling the money to shell companies actually just turns out to be a legitimate government transaction with the company Shell or something. Right? And then we're all like, oh, well, you said it in a different way, man. Like, you let us on a little bit there. Like, it could be that. But if it turns out that he's crooked, I think the silver lining of that is like, well, here's how I think. Like, I think it doesn't mean that you were an idiot for putting your trust in him or in the Democrats or in the lesser of two evils at the last election. Like, I feel like you're not an idiot for wanting the better of two terrible options to be the American president. You're not. But also of equal importance, you should take solace in the fact that we as left-leaning progressive types, whether you're in the UK or the US, like we can look at one of our own, if you like, and we can go, yeah, if he's crooked, he should go. And there's real integrity in that. There's real character in being able to do that. And saying like, I liked him. I wish that he hadn't done X or, but if he has done it, yeah, he should go, Because I'm sorry to say this, but, well, actually, I mean, I'm not that sorry to say. Like, it's endlessly funny when I see it displayed. But, like, if you're on the right, if you're a Trumpy guy or a Brexity guy, maybe you loved Boris, or you spend your life railing against trans people or black people or whatever. Like, if that's you, like, you guys are demonstrably incapable of a rational response when it happens to one of your own. Like, you really are. Like, when a left-leaning face turns out to be awful or to have done something awful, the people on the left, by and large, go, yeah, well, he should go. Like, when right-wingers, heroes, get caught up in something, they're like, no, it's not fair. It wasn't him. You leave Britney alone. Like, it's pathetic. It's childlike. And it's levels deep funny, too, because being as dumb and childish as they are, being as insular and ignorant as they are, like, they assume that everyone else is just as cynical and dumb as they are. Because it would actually take more than one firing synapse in their brain to reason that other people are more intelligent or possess more compassion than them, So they think we are just as dumb as they are. So when something does happen, like a crooked Biden thing, or, another seemingly progressive person falls, like a Louis C.K., or whatever, then they go, yeah, if that was a Republican locking their office door and asking women if he could bash one out, you'd be losing your minds right now. But now it's one of your own. It's a comedian that you like. So, I suppose you think he should be given an Emmy and told to crack on. You're pathetic, you liberal cuck. You're so biased. You don't even, until you respond like, well, no, actually, I mean, if he's done those things that they say that he's done, no, he should go. And then they're like, see, I knew, wait, what? Like, it breaks their brain. Like, I remember when I was on LBC that time, man. And there was Ian Dale hosting, who was lovely, by the way. Charming gentleman is Ian Dale. And there was me, and there was a young conservative lady, and there was Bob, what's his name? The sausage guy. the Tory MP from the Isle of Wight, I think. Did he break lockdown? He got caught at barbecue eating sausages or something. I can't remember what it was now, but for some reason I get sausages in my head whenever I think of him. Bob something. Bobby Sausages, we'll call him. Like, he was a douche anyway, but, Oh, and there was another guy who I think he was a sort of Midlands Labour, possibly a Lib Dem. I think he was Labour, though. But anyway, so I'm on LBC with these guys, and we were talking about Johnson and the Partygate committee hearing, and I'd said something about how we need to see accountability. There should be repercussions for lying to Parliament and to the public and holding us in such contempt, and they were like, "Oh, right, okay. Oh, I suppose you'd be the same if it was Nicola Sturgeon, would you? Yeah, you'd want to see her hauled in front of a committee and banned from politics for life, or for whatever her nonsense turns out to be, would you?" And I was amazed that this is even a sort of half gotcha kind of thing. Like, I was like, yeah, maybe she should be banned, if she's done bad things. Maybe she should be. Like, I don't hero worship, man. I just don't. It's a bad fudging idea. I'm desperately trying to stay on the right side of the YouTube algorithm here. I really am. I'm not even joking. Like, I need this to start generating money. So prepare yourselves for lots of me calling people Mother Hubbards and fudge and oh shoot and gosh and all of that stuff. But yeah, I don't hero worship, man. Like, it's not good. It's not healthy, especially not at this age. Like, it's not good when you're a teenager, even, because all that happens is the band split up, or the singer dies, or one of them turns out to be a paedophile, or something, or they lock women in their office and bash one out to them. Like, honestly, like, my heroes, my idols, when I was growing up, right through to when I was about even 32. Were like Michael Jackson, Kurt Cobain, Big Proof from D12, and then Louis C.K. And literally every one of them let me down in some colossal way. Like, my CD and DVD collection used to be like an ensemble cast movie of suicides and sex offenders. Like, do not hero worship. Like, false idols and all that. It's one of the commandments. Read it up. I mean, I will say this, don't hero worship unless it's, part of my Patreon cult, of course, which, like, I'm going to try not to let you guys down, but I can't 100% promise I won't give up on everything one gloomy Monday. Blow my brains out in a side garage. Commit Cobain. Just as a side note, man, like, I love this idea that Kurt Cobain killed himself because he couldn't take the fame. Couldn't take the fame. That's why he ended. It was just too much. Like, he seemed fine a couple of years before, playing his songs, touring, having fun in the interviews. And then what happened? He had a baby. That's what happened. I always say, man, like, Kurt Cobain seemed fine before he had a 2-year-old. Then that's the variable there. That's what changed. That's how hard fatherhood is, man. It makes men get up and walk out of their own homes. They just grab their keys and wallets and leave £300,000 assets and walk out with nothing. Because they're like, oh, it's too hard. It's not worth it. Like, I love you. I do. But, somewhere deep down, like, you could never put a price on it. But right now, it's somewhere south of £300,000 because I am leaving with nothing. That's how hard fatherhood is. Fatherhood is so hard that Kurt Cobain, a millionaire, handsome, global rock star, achieving his dream, playing to adoring fans, winning awards, the envy of the industry, $1 million house, and still, he was like, it's not worth it. I'm out. But yeah, anyway, what was I saying? Fallen heroes, right? Being able to accept when someone has let you down. And that is the thing that I think separates, lefties, for want of a better word, from the right wingers, is we're not ashamed to say, oh man, that guy let me down. I thought he was cool. Like, to us, there's a strength in that, isn't there? To us, there's integrity and strength. And you know what? Somewhat perversely, there's strength in that vulnerability, Like, we liked this person because we thought they reflected the positives of the human experience. Not to sound too pretentious now, but now maybe we feel like we're let down because actually they're not quite what we had hoped for. But to us, that's not, it's not a weakness in us that we placed our trust in someone. It's actually a signifier of like our hope, of our need for heroes or for people who possess those qualities that we were drawn to, So it's a strength. Whereas for the right, I don't know, man. Like, I'm sure it's not all of them. I'm sure there's some half nice, compassionate, decent people on the, sort of center right or whatever. I'm sure it's not all of them. But for a lot of them, it feels like they look at someone like Biden with these accusations getting thrown around now. The talk of the funneling money to shell accounts, the bribes and whatever else. I feel like they look at Biden and then they go, see? We told you he was just as bad as our guy, whom we won't hear anything bad ever said about. But they're all the same. They're just as bad as each other. There's no point in anything. Like, quick, vote for the even worse guy with like 90 criminal charges because the even worse guy, is gonna fix it somehow. Guys, I gotta go. I gotta turn in early. I gotta get some sleep, or I am not gonna be awake in time to go to. Guys, I gotta go. I gotta turn in early. I gotta get some sleep, or I am not gonna be awake in time to join Rishi's Donors Breakfast Club. I'm just not. So I'll leave you with this. Who's coming on the 28th? Thursday the 28th of September. You can grab tickets still in the link in the description, funk27.co.uk/shows. You can also get tickets to the Riot Society on the 10th of November. Big shout outs to the Patreons, whose names I shall now read, for no particular reason, in the accent of a mid-90s rapper. Because you guys contribute. You're the money men who produce my content. In a way. So here we go, right? Mid-90s rapper reeling off his producers. Are you ready? Here we go. Hey, yo, what's up? Big shouts, big love, man. It's all love to Bowman, Kai, Christy, David Voice, Martin Maracas, Mojo Sapien, Peter Del Monte, Pingu, Silent, Stuart Chesmer, T-Rex in a top hat, Aaron Smith, Alex Suter, Jeff McGow, Ned Berg, Sarah Setters, Simon Flack, Elsa, Chris Sorley, Malcolm, Rodri, and Carrie. It's all love. I don't know why I felt the need to do that. Anyway, look, I'm back on Friday for the 7:30 p.m. Friday night show. Till next time, keep it booge, and I'm out this mother hubbard.